Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here for another movie review edition. You know, I like to keep our videos varied. We do gaming videos, we do untold stories, and I do movie reviews, Ask Me Anything. Today's a movie review of a lot of requests we've been getting for me to review the movie Shawshank Redemption. But before I get started, I really haven't been hitting on it enough. We have a membership program with both Patreon and YouTube. On the Patreon membership program, it's really pretty cool. I actually do live one-on-one video chats with the members, the higher level members. There's a lot of stuff from memes and contests and specific emails I give out, that kind of stuff to members. So please check it out. You could just hit the join, and you could check out both of them. Go to Patreon as well, and you could check out that there. Please check out all the description stuff below in the description from my book, Gangster Redemption, which is a lot about this movie we're going to be talking about. And because this movie reminded me a lot of that. So let's get started with Shawshank Redemption.
A revolver holds 6 bullets, not 8. I submit that this was not a hot-blooded crime of passion. That at least could be understood, if not condoned.
By the power vested in me by the state of Maine, I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back. 1 for each of your victims. So be it.
First of all, let me say it's one of my favorite prison movies, and I'll tell you why. The authenticity of the brutality of what goes on in prison is pretty much displayed in this movie. It really got you. It got you going because you felt for the character. You felt for Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins played Andy Dufresne, and he was sentenced to murder. He was sentenced for 2 life sentences for murder. This is what the premise of the thing is. And he's sent to the Ohio State Reformatory. I don't know if they called it the Ohio State in the movie, but he was sent to Shawshank Prison, is what they said. But it was done in Ohio, and it was the Ohio State Reformatory. I actually had a friend I was in prison with who was in that facility, actually, and before they shut it down. And he was in that facility. He was a meth head, but he was a funny dude. Anyway, so this movie's on the premises of this guy he claimed he was wrongly convicted. And during the movie, they do find out it wasn't him. But what happens is they showed the brutality. When he first gets there as a new fish, he gets sexually abused multiple times by a guy. They end up getting rid of that guy in the movie, but I'm telling you, that happens. You know, sexual abuse is not, I always talk about, it's not happening every minute of every day, but it happens. Friends of mine have been abused, and we've talked about it, and it's just something sad that I look at in a big way, because I don't care if you're straight or gay or whatever you want or whatever you identify yourself at, because I love all people. I really do. In all my heart, I mean that. And it drives me nuts, because anybody who says, oh, this person's gay, they're gonna like it. Nobody likes to be violated and abused physically. So they show this very in-depth how it's done in prison there, and when he was working in a laundry, and it's sad as it is, exactly how it happens. And it gave me chills. You know what gave me chills of this movie is the oldness and the way the prison was set up, because it reminded me a lot of Atlanta. The only difference in this movie that Atlanta prison didn't have is this had the bar doors, the bar doors. Atlanta had doors that open and close, not bars. But if you go to what they call Charlie House in Atlanta, to this day, and unless something changed that I don't know drastically, Charlie House has the bars just like that. And when I was in Atlanta, we used Charlie House. The prison system used Charlie House as one of the holes. They had multiple holes, or special housing unit or hole, whatever you want to call it. I call it abuse. But that's where they put you in solitary. And this movie, when I watched this movie and I watched it develop, and the characters they developed were really cool. They had the one guy, Red. Red was played by Morgan Freeman. And listen, I love Morgan Freeman. I think he's one of the greatest actors we have. And Morgan Freeman plays Red to a T. A convict who's got a store. He can get things from the outside, has the connections, and he's been in prison for, at that time, 20 years when he first meets him, because the prison actually is over a span of 20 years. He gets in there in the 40s, Andy Dufresne does, and then he escapes in this, I think in the 60s is when they have it, have it. And I got it because the way time went and how long Andy was in there and what he got. How he escaped. First of all, how he escaped was really cool. But before we get to that, I'm just going over the characters. So you got Andy Dufresne, and I find out later that who wanted that part? Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Kevin Costner. When there's a good script, actors gravitate towards it because they wanna be known as doing a movie that's good, not just the money they're making. And obviously they make a lot of money, but they also want a movie that's going to be, exciting, like it was Goodfellas, or if they have a good script. And as I say, when my movie comes out, Gangster Redemption, and if you haven't seen or read my book, Gangster Redemption, go in the link below and get that book. That book, I'm told, is one of the best, and I am in talks for a movie. I'm discussing how to get the script done, and maybe I'll be asking for a GoFundMe page. I don't know at this point, but that book, Gangster Redemption, please read it. It's just a great read, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote the book. It's because everybody tells me it's been a great book, and they really love the book. So with that said, so here we are in the book, in Andy Dufresne, and it's a prison book, and it's a prison movie. What is absent in this movie, which it didn't bother me, there was no female lead, if you want to call it that. There was no love story involved. This was a raw movie, and that's what drew me to the movie. Not that I don't like good scenes like that and stuff like that, but what happened was the authenticity of the movie and how they did it really struck me. How they got Andy's brains. Listen, in prison, brains will get you farther than brawn. That's a fact. Brains will get you farther than brawn. Because in prison, you got to figure out. I always tell people, anybody asks me, hey, somebody they know is going to prison, what should they do? Well, the first thing they should do is learn how to communicate with people in a very good way and how to read people. Andy ended up, he was working on a roof, and a cop overheard him talking about taxes and how he had to pay something for taxes. And Andy said, what, you don't write off your uniform? Something like that. And I just watched it, and I forget that part, but it was so good because he got where he started doing the tax work for people in the prison. The warden hears about it, gets him to do books. Well, the warden, another guy, great part. It's I think of these wardens, and I'm sorry to say it. I know there's got to be good wardens out there. I really do. But the ones I know, and we all know who I mean, in my prisons, those kind of guys are, I feel, too much, whether they lose their heart and the whole business. Well, this warden was stealing. This warden was embezzling money, and he was having Andy do the books. So to figure it all out, and Andy's the one who has it. Funny scene in the movie is, when you're in prison for a long time, you start losing your identity. You really do. Well, Andy finds a record that's sent into the library. He was writing letters to get funding for a library, and he gets it. And they send this album in, and what does he do, Andy? He gets to where the speaker is, the whole unit speaker, where when they want to make a general announcement. So anyway, he puts this record on the speaker system and locks the door so they can't get at him. So this music is playing throughout the facility, and boy, when they get through to him, they throw him a beating, and I mean a beating, and they throw him in solitary. This solitary was even worse than any solitary I was ever in. And I was in solitary for a long time. You know that. I was in solitary for 3 years out of my 11 straight in prison. I was in solitary 3 years. I was in solitary for 11 straight months. and that's just such brutality. I get goosebumps when I think about that. But anyway, Andy gets thrown in a hole, but he comes out and everybody's like loving him, like he's the man. And when people stick up for people or do something crazy, you do get that respect. Like me, I got respect in prison for fighting the prison system. I fought deaths of my fellow inmates by writing letters to senators, writing letters to newspapers, writing letters, and they got published. And I was always complaining about the abuses going on in this facility. And I ended up getting respect from the other inmates in that way because they realize they need people to fight for them. But sad, and they show this very well in prison, in this movie. A new guy comes to prison, and he's the guy who eventually says, he was at another prison with a guy who said that he's the one that killed Andy's wife. That's what Andy went to prison for killing his wife, but he really didn't do it. And that's when he finds out more of that. But what they really show in the prison is them educating this kid. His name is Tommy. Tommy was a character that was kind of a stupid guy. He goes to prison for burglary, and they teach him to get his GED. And it brought back such memories because when I was in prison, myself and another couple of inmates helped this older black guy, about 50 years old at the time. I'm about 40 at the time. We helped him get his GED and get his graduation. And you know what he said at his graduation? He says, I have a life sentence. I'm never getting out. And this is one of the best days of my life. That's what he said. And it really struck us because if you read, all you young people out there, all the friends, everybody out there, my YouTube guys, we can read. I'm sure, I don't know what percent, I don't know, 99.99% of all you can read. I can't even imagine what it's like to be in prison and not being able to read. It just blows me away. That's one of the things that blows me away the most. How could somebody go to prison and not be, it's there. Obviously, there's very functional illiterates. In prison, there's, I don't know what percentage, probably 15 to 20% of what they call functional illiterates, meaning they could never pass their GED. Never. But even them, most of them could read a little bit. We taught some people to read who couldn't read the word the. Didn't know what, the cat in the hat would be, or any kind of structure of a sentence, have no clue. And I can't imagine it because I'm a reader. I love to read. I'm always reading. It's amazing. I didn't even think about that until after I started thinking about this scene about the reading. And they taught this man to read and get his GED. And I did that. And it's a great feeling for us to help a person do something like that. It really is. It's one of the great feelings in the world. So anyway, they also have a scene in this movie. Now, Andy, in the meantime, and you don't know it during the movie, he's escaping. He's into rocks. And later in the thing, they say, Andy said, it would take 20 years to go through a wall and get out of a prison with one of those. And I think he took, 17 years, 60, whatever it was. Andy did it. But it was so cool the way they did the escape. But before the escape, a guy named Brooks is an old dude who does 50 years in prison. I know people like this. So Brooks does 50 years in prison. Well, Brooks does 50 years, he gets out, and he has what they call institutionalization. He's institutionalized. Totally institutionalized. He can't make it out on the outside. And what did he do? He hung himself. And sadly, that is so true. If I did not have my family and my close friends and really people tight to me, I don't know what I would have did. I really could say that. Because I was institutionalized and I was educated and I got my degree in prison and a lot of things. But I can't fathom how I would have been if I didn't have the support system I had getting out. What I really would have did. And you don't realize it because then you don't care and you might just get reckless and then you do a few bad things and before you know it, you're on that edge again and before you know it, you're doing whatever it takes And that is terrible. I mean, it just happens. I'm sorry to say it does. So anyway, at this time, Andy's in whatever 17 years, and one day they show him, and they don't show it. It's like kind of, it goes back. It's really cool the way they did it. And they have count time, and get on the ledge, get on the ledge. You know the way they do things. Come on, count time, don't make me wait. That kind of stuff. I mean, that's just the way it is. You know, you have to get out. In the federal system, you have to stand up on your 2 feet, count time. Have to do it. No way around it. You got to do it. So anyway, here we are in this facility, and they say count time, and Andy's not there, does it? Don't let me come up there, Dufresne. Don't let me come up. It's Andy Dufresne. Don't let me come up there. And sure enough, they go up there, and he's missing. Oh, my God. Now the alarms go off, and Red is like, even Red don't know what's going on. He's like, what? You know, what? Like, he's like in shock. Everybody's in shock, and Andy's gone. So then they come back, and they show how he did it. First of all, in the cell, the warden comes in, and the warden is just this typical asshole I told you about, and he's just the way he is, this warden. So the warden gets, you know, he sees Andy, that he has his cell set up with rocks and whatever, and he has a picture on the wall, a poster, which is a girl that we'd all be masturbating to. That's just what those things are in prison, trust me. And it's a picture of Rita Hayworth. For young people, Rita Hayworth was like the, I don't know I don't know, one of these hot broads today you see, Kate Upton. You know what Kate Upton is? Well, Rita Hayworth was that Kate Upton back in that day, and back in the 60s and stuff. And the warden is throwing rocks at everybody. He throws one at the poster, and it goes through. And there's a hole behind the poster, you know, yo big. And then they show how Andy got out through the system. He went through shit pipe, you know, which is the toilet pipes. He broke the toilet pipe open, and he literally swam I think they said 500 yards, which was outside the prison, into a ravine, but it was where the shit tank or a drain comes out. And Andy did that, and he got away, and he had it done. But what really was so cool about this whole thing is how he set it up, how Andy set the whole entire thing up. I was so impressed with that, how he set up the books, and how he sent the books back to the newspaper to expose the warden's crimes, how he went into the banks with fake ID to get the money that he took from the warden. The warden was stealing the money. Andy had it redirected to him. So as the fake person, he set all this up because he was working in a library, and he was working in the warden's office. So he said it, I'm telling you, it was so, so good. So when he gets out, obviously he's out. Now they don't show him. And the next person who does 40 years in prison and gets out is Red, which is played by Morgan Freeman again. So Red gets out. Now Red starts working on the outside, and obviously he's having a tough time. There is no way you can do 40 years in prison, not have any help on the outside, and make it. I don't think anybody can do it. I really don't. I think you're done. You can't make it. It's just something you can't do. So anyway, Red is working in a grocery store, asking the manager, can I go to the bathroom?
You don't need to ask me every time you need to go take a piss. Just go. Understand?
Like, you know, people on the outside, the little things that inmates do. You know, the other day I was with a couple of people, and they asked me, Larry, what's one of the things you really missed? And you know what I told them? And they looked at me weird. I said, taking a shower without having shower shoes. Think of what I just said. You get up, you take a shower, you wash up, you wash your feet, wash everything, you wash your body, Try to do that with shower shoes. You have to wear shower shoes like you're in a gym. So for all the time I'm in prison, I didn't wear shower shoes. Because of the, you know, guys are jacking off in there, and you don't want to, you know, stand in their crap and their cum or whatever it is in there. You just don't want to do it. So here you are, and it's something that you don't get when you're a free man. That, wow, you don't get it, man. I am free. I'm in a shower that only I'm taking, or my mom and somebody else is taking. So you know they're clean. And it's amazing, because that's something that just hits you. Well, here's Red asking for permission to go to the bathroom. It's just crazy. So anyway, what does Red do? Red goes then, and he was really thinking about, he was living in the same apartment that the old guy Brooksy, the guy who killed himself, was in, and he went up to the beam to write Red was here, but he saw you. That's when you see Brooks did the same thing, and you think in the middle that he was going to hang himself, but he doesn't hang himself. He leaves. He breaks his parole. He's on parole. He breaks his parole, gets on a bus, goes to Texas, and from Texas, he had a plan. You know, Andy said beforehand, if you ever get out, go to this area and whatever, and it was just something he always said to him. And he went there, and Andy had money and directions to Mexico, where Andy was. And then at the ending scene, you see Red walking down the beach, and Andy working on an old boat, and the two guys reunite. And let me tell you what the reuniting, even at the end of the movie, made me think. You know, to this day, I have very close friends that I know, that I still talk to, that we were in the joint together. And it's because when you're in an environment like that, you get to know people. And you get to know them, and you're living with them, you shit with them, you eat with them. And let me tell you something, you get connections, you get good people connected. And, you know, it's a shame. Yes, everybody there made bad choices. No question about it. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about the situation where this has happened, and now you have such connection with a person when they get out. And I still have that. And that's it. And it's amazing. But that movie really brought back memories. It is still, to me, one of the best movies out there, especially with display of prison and how it is, and the brutality of the guard and the captain of the guard and how they treat people. And sadly, I don't think it's changed. In fact, I think it's gotten worse. It blows me away when I hear they don't have cameras everywhere in prison. Why? But anyway, this movie was a great movie. If you have not seen Shawshank Redemption, make sure you do. Please, make sure you do. And if you have, comment. Let me know what you thought of the movie as well. What part of the movie struck you? I'd love to know that as well. Trust me, it's a movie that came out in 1994, so you'll love it. But, you know, it is what it is. And you guys know I'm very passionate about that kind of stuff, trying to change the system. We all know that. But, you know, I got to do reviews. I got to do my GTA. And I got to do Untold Stories, which is coming too. So, guys, I really love in this channel. I love my YouTube audience. I really do. You guys are very dear to me. You don't know it. I do comment. We love you. I respect you. Have a great day. Stay safe. Please, everybody, make good choices. Watch the movies. Don't go in one. Have a great day. Much respect.